What are
Yeah.
some of the more like surprising, I'm if you could enumerate out some of what the tendencies are, typically what your debrief responses are, probably
Mhm.
I'm right there in the mean. But what are some of the more surprising ones? And then, like you said, you maybe don't want to do it on a call where
Yeah.
there's things at stake, but to develop that muscle, almost like being in a gymnasium, the reps, and you make room for more of this play than the hardwired stuff. But when you do these workshops and these on keynotes,
Yeah.
what's surprising and what delights you so much that you get the feedback on?
Ugh. For me, it's almost always that it's hard.
Yeah.
Like,
I was just going to say, when someone goes, I hated this, you're like, oh, amazing. That's the best.
yeah.
Yeah.
We get so comfortable with doing the things we're good at that we rarely give ourselves an opportunity to do things we are not good at. And so often we'll clump then in those clusters as well. So we then get the thing that I think is the death knell for creativity and also entrepreneurship, which is sameness. And I know there's all of these different concepts out there in the world, but science and nature proves over and over again that biodiversity is success. So diversity is an incredibly successful outcome for us. And that's diversity of thoughts, right? And it also comes because people have different backgrounds. The thing for me that I love, love, love the most about that is when people say this was uncomfortable, this was hard for me, I can see, and we were talking about it before, those crystallized synaptic connections, what happens when you go over and over and over, they slowly start to break apart. And that's the thing that improv does, again, better than any other adaptogenic skill, is that it allows you to break apart some of those preferred pathways. And I'll just very quickly give an example of what I mean by that. So listeners, people who are at home, where is the garbage can you use the most in your house? Yeah, for a lot of people, it can be like under their desk or maybe in their, kitchen or under the sink in their kitchen. Most people, it's under the sink in the kitchen. Yeah. And so today, go home, move that trash can somewhere new in your house. If you're brave, move it to a different room. If you're not, just put it somewhere different in the kitchen. A, whoever you live with will move it back. B, you will go to that trash can where it used to be to empty your garbage, and it won't be there anymore. That's a preferred pathway. And those are habits that we aren't even aware of. They are unknown unknowns to us. And that's also a very dangerous proposition in the business world, because unknown unknowns typically are those things that come to kind of haunt us later. So we love this exercise because it helps you to move the trash can and it gets you uncomfortable. And getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is the best skill set we can help human beings with in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll add with the debriefs, our as Anthony said, our success metric is people saying that something was really hard, because it means that we've been able to create that psychological safety in the room. Because it's a very difficult thing for people to admit that something was hard around their colleagues, around their peers, around their managers. And so we spend a good amount of time at the top of any interaction or experience that we have, building that psychological safety through play and through beats, right? Those are the two things that have clinically been proven to develop connection and build trust and safety. So I want to make sure we get to the beats part of it, because most people are probably listening being like, this is all great. Why are you called Freestyle Plus?
Right.
Anthony, can you tell us why we're called Freestyle Plus?
Anthony.
It's not my job. That's not my job. But I'll just quickly finish that point, which is that when we've been able to create that environment, when we've been able to create that atmosphere, then people speak up. And when someone speaks up and says that this was really hard, and everyone else hears that they did not immediately get fired for saying that, it opens up even more. And so those debriefs, the exercises that we do in any one of our experiences kind of scaffold on each other. So the things we're asking people to do towards the end of an experience are things that they would not have been able to do if we just walked in and we go, try this exercise, right? And the debriefs similarly scaffold. The debriefs that we get towards the end are so rich. They have so much value. And we always tell people, don't look at us when you're debriefing, because we don't, we're not the people, the intended audience here, teach each other, right? Anthony talks about this Freudian pedagogy that we use, where like the wisdom of the room is far greater than the wisdom of the 2 clowns or 5 clowns standing in the front of the room, right? So look at each other, learn from each other. Those debriefs are where all the learning actually happens. We play, but then we learn from each other through those debriefs.
Yeah, and Anthony, just before you walk us through the beats part of it, you know, Vivek, I've seen firsthand. We've done some amazing shows with Freestyle Plus, and some of them have been quite elaborate over a course of days, and some very tailored, detailed type of workshopping. And you know, the mastery of, because creating the psychologically safe space to swing out, to get to play and make the wrong answers, not worry about getting fired or judged, is important. But there's a step before that, I believe, and I've seen it play out, and you all deal with it in such a mastery. And I'm not stroking, you know what, just to do it. It's there's the cynic, and there's the resigned people,
right?
And one of these, you know, airy fairy things. Each situation is unique. How do you disarm that? How do you soften the ground there? And I would say there's not one right answer.